Hello, my name is Ilona, and this is more a video that I just want to talk about something that I think is important. I think I've shared this before in another video, but I fully understand that a lot of people haven't seen all my videos, and to be very honest, I haven't got a clue what I've said in all those videos either, so I'm just going to talk about something that I think is important, and sometimes it is important to repeat some things. I've talked about this before. I know that. I'm not sure what I've said about it then, so I'm just going to talk about it now. And I've called this video Gone with the Gurus and Spiritual Arrogance. And I think it's very important that we leave the gurus behind. So leave the gurus, gone with the gurus. I'm not sure what title I'm going to give it, but just not put someone on a pedestal in what kind of way you want to, we are so programmed to look outside of ourselves. The dark energies wanted that. They wanted us to look at them, give our energy to them. So they've created all kinds of things to give them that energy, and it's all outside of ourselves. So books, people, we place them on pedestals, we let them think for ourselves. And it's very important in the Great Awakening that we start to, get rid of gurus. I think that will be a good title. I was just thinking about that. I had the title in Dutch, but wasn't really thinking about the English titles, but get rid of gurus. I think that's the essential thing here. Get rid of anything that is outside of yourself and doesn't feel right to you. There's nothing wrong with reading books, taking information that resonates with you, and then you use it and of course adjust it to your situation that is for you useful. Then there's nothing wrong with it because you've made it your own. But if you're just taking in certain things or follow a certain person that you follow completely, there is no really critical thinking involved, then you really need to step back and look at the situation. Now, of course, people watching these videos, I highly doubt that you're still following gurus, but it's important because there's also something I want to talk about later on about spiritual arrogance, and it kind of has connections to that. But it's so important in this time from the Great Awakening that we step away from giving our powers to things outside of ourselves, that we really look inward, what feels right to us, what is really fitting with us, and that we create our own way of thinking that is, useful to us. And there's no, issue if you want to take information from other people, but it's important that you feel if it resonates with you, if it's right with how you feel inside, and if it's not something you just picked up or it's from your family and you're just like, yeah, well, I just have to follow this person or this book or this way of thinking. Or it's very important that you make your own decisions, you create your own path. So that's what I wanted to emphasize with the gurus. And guru is really a big topic. It could be anything. You could be following someone or, like I mentioned, books, information, or just go from one workshop to the other workshop. I've done this in the past. I was always looking, I have to do this and then I might, grow, because there was also always this uncertainty in me that I just didn't know enough. And if I would meet someone that would know so much and this spiritual insight, I would always in a way put them on a pedestal. So, and in a way I was making them a guru, because that's what you do if you put something higher than yourself. And that's something I also wanted to talk about with spiritual arrogance. And I've seen this in the spiritual community more and more. And of course, this is just some things I just wanted to mention, because I don't want to make this, this video of like an hour or two about this subject, because there's so many angles to it. But spiritual arrogance is really people that maybe have narcissistic tendencies or things like that, or just blind spot. They use spirituality as a shield. It's also called spiritual bypass. So they don't really want to deal with anything. They don't want to use confrontation to grow. They just use it against someone. And this is also in a way connected to gurus, because they have a tendency of placing themselves above you if you deal with those people. And so if there is something happening, you're talking to this person, you've met someone and they're very knowledgeable spiritually, they know so many things, and they've done all these workshops and all these trainings, and you're looking at them and listening to them, and it can really overwhelm you. Like, oh, they've got so much knowledge, they know so many things. And then something happens, or they cross like a boundary with you or something. It's not feeling right, and you mention this, like, hey, you said something like this, and they immediately are like, that is your issue, you'll have to deal with that. They have this pushing away in their energy, like, that has nothing to do with me, that has to do with you. Here you could read this and this and this, and they come up with these things, and in a way they make you feel like something's very wrong with you, has nothing to do with them. So they will just push you away. They place themselves in a way above you. That is spiritual arrogance. So they don't have to face a confrontation or really talk to you or connect with you. It's easier for them to just push it away. They use that spirituality. This is your issue, you're triggered, and it has nothing to do with them. It's very interesting, because situations has, of course, always, if you feel something or something happens and it triggers you, it has to do with you. But by, you're in this situation with the other person, it also has something to do with the other person, because they can't say there's nothing to do with this, because they are, how to say this, you talk to them about this, so immediately that will have an effect on them as well. If they are truly spiritual, self-aware, they will look inward and start like, oh, well, you're saying this and this, oh, that's not how I meant it, or they will talk to you by connecting with what you're saying. They're not going to push you away. They're not going to give you this feeling that there's something wrong with you or that you're crazy. That's a truly spiritual person or spiritual human being will deal with things. They will not be like immediately pushing things away. That's a sign of someone who still has some issues in a way, because why would you push someone away? You can just talk to them, maybe say, well, that's not how I see things, or that's not how I felt it, but you're still in connection with the other person and willing to listen to them without pushing them away right away. So that's a sign, clear sign, if someone is truly spiritual, truly, dealing with things, truly are looking for growth, spiritual growth, if they're open to talk to you, have a real true dialogue and not push you away, and are willing to also look at themselves and face things. Maybe they are being triggered, or it's also a possibility. It doesn't have to immediately mean someone has narcissistic tendencies. It's also possible that this person this human being has a blind spot. But usually when something happens like that and they're triggered in a blind spot, they will later on talk about that. Like, oh, well, this actually triggered me. They will think about that. They know when they're being triggered themselves. That's usually a sign of someone who's self-aware. I know when I'm being triggered. I can hear myself starting, I have signs when I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm being triggered myself. What does this say about me? Why am I acting like this? If I would be like pushing someone away, it's like, yeah, I'm being triggered. So what's going on here? And then maybe later on I will talk about that. But I will always look at myself. So, and if it's not affecting me in that way, or I didn't mean anything like that, I will say that as well. But I will not make someone feel like they're completely crazy, or it's really all about them. It's really, they have to look at themselves. You don't have to do anything. It's a very lazy way of looking at things. At least that's my perspective. So spiritual arrogance has to do with someone placing themselves above you, because they're further. That's at least how they want to make it seem, and you still have to catch up, and you still have to do things, and then you'll be on the same level as them. That is the placement. They place themselves here and you're down here. The interesting thing about this is it of course is a lesson for you as well. I've met them in the past as well, and it is really about insecurity in yourself, that you place people above you. So if you faced with someone like that, really feel through it. Why am I, putting so much worth on what they're thinking or what they're saying? And maybe I'm not seeing them in the right perspective. Never put someone on a pedestal. No one is better than you. No one is worse than you. We're all on our own path. And it's very important to realize that. And we are exactly where we need to be. And we can work from that. So if you notice that someone is really, stepping over your boundaries, that of course has to do with putting up boundaries, and that person is really just pushing it all on you, like it's nothing to do with them. And this is not just in spiritual arrogance. You can even see this in relationships and friendships and colleagues. Anyone that places themselves above you, this has to do with you really putting your foot down, really stepping into your power. It's a sign that there's still some insecurity in yourself, and you can really deal with that. And then you can decide if you still want to continue talking to this person, or if it's possible to have a friendship relationship as a colleague, or in what way, whatever, or family, if you want to deal with a person like that. Or maybe it's time for you to just step away. Because especially if someone is really just focused on their own way of thinking, they're not really open for anything else, and they are really giving you the feeling like you're crazy, there's something wrong with you, then it's usually not someone you really want to have around you or in your energy, because they will bring your energy down, because they have to. They're insecure themselves. That's why they close off everything. It's like the spiritual bypass, so they don't have to deal with things inside of themselves. So they push you away. So they don't have to deal with anything. So that's spiritual arrogance. And it's connected with the guru in a way, because they place themselves above you. So they want you to look up to them and to follow what they're saying without being critical of them, without really looking at themselves. So they're using spirituality as a shield, so they don't have to work on themselves. Very important. Like I said, you will notice if someone places themselves above you, if they're not willing to look at themselves, if they can't handle criticism, then you really have to wonder, first of all, what does this say about you? Why have you invited this person in your life? Deal with those things, heal them, do shadow work, and then, of course, decide what you want to do with this contact, if you want to continue this or not, or follow your own path. So that's what I wanted to mention about spiritual arrogance, spiritual bypass. It's connected, using spirituality so they don't have to, confrontation with themselves, and realize that you are on your own path. You are your own to decide what is important for you. There's nothing outside of yourself that's going to make that decision for you. You have to decide. You can read things, listen to people, but you are the one to decide whether it fits with you, whether it resonates with you. That's self-awareness. That is looking inside of yourself and finding answers there. What is important to me? We are all unique. We are all children of God. And we have our own paths to follow. And that's so important. No one is above you. No one is underneath you. We are all equal. We're all connected. And it's very important to realize that, and that you are perfect the way you are in the situation you are now, and that you're still growing and learning. And that's the most important thing, that you can look inside of yourself, really choose to grow, choose to learn, and that it will just get easier and easier, and you will become your own person, your own human being, or your own being. In a way, we are spiritual beings in a human experience. So we are way more than just human, but we are our own. And it's very important that we follow that we get rid of all these gurus, all these things outside of ourselves that don't really fit with us. And that we start seeing things from our perspective, being, of course, authentic, but also respectful to other people that are following their own path, and just see if something resonates with you or not. If it doesn't make that the other person or situation awful, it just doesn't resonate. And some things will resonate, and maybe they'll resonate for a certain period of time, and then you'll move on again. But really connect with yourself, with your intuition, with God, your soul, and that will lead you to where you truly want to be. And essentially, it is really rediscovering yourself. So I'd like to leave it at this and hope to see you in another video. Bye.